Doctor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Garden Doctor Show. Mrs. Garden Doctor over here.
Don't you just love that song?
I do love that song.
I love to hear that song play.
Yeah, that's an upbeat song. Reminds you of spring and gardening and outside and fishing and fall is around the corner, which means hunting season, which doesn't feel like it with 90 degrees. We're going to talk a little bit about hunting season a little later, but right now we're going to talk about some gardening and some landscaping questions and things that have come in. One of the questions that come in that was very interesting was someone asked me, what is the growing season in Alaska? Well, I didn't know. I had no idea, but I did know that I have seen giant cabbage growing up there. I mean cabbage this big.
Yes, I've seen those pictures.
Clean, firm heads, and broccoli that kids could barely pick up. And the reason for that is that they have a 24-hour growing season when they do have a growing season, which is...
Yes, it's only 105 days.
Compared to our...
Which is 152 days. But the thing is, with a 24-hour growing season, with light 24 hours a day in Alaska...
And the mineral content in the soil up there is
you can
really
get giant
fabulous.
Proportions.
Yeah, and a lot of the when I was up there visiting, I went to a place where they grow year-round. They're right down along the ocean, and they were in this little valley. I forget the name of it, but it's a famous valley. And it's right along the ocean, and it never freezes there. And they grow cold season crops year-round, which feeds a lot of Alaska, because it's expensive to get it from there down around the corner.
Now, I don't know how much that 105 days has changed with climate change happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You know, there are some people who still don't believe climate change is happening. I don't understand how.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
But I think really everybody should know that, except I think the debate lies in, are we causing it? And, you know, how much of it is a natural occurrence.
Yeah.
But in any case,
it does occur naturally,
Yes.
but it doesn't occur at this rate, I don't think. And if it was meant to occur like this, then that means that we better be packing our bags because we don't have
Well,
a
I've been
whole lot of
watching
time.
the Today Show, which I love, and of course I like Hoda, and Kathy Lee's gone, but they have Jenna now. But before that, they've been doing a series all week long in Greenland and Alaska, different places, showing what is happening with climate change and how the glaciers are melting and that kind of thing. So growing seasons will change. In fact, our zone for growing has changed, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
It
Our
went from
zone has changed, and it's a funny change that has occurred, too, because straight across from us is Liberty, and south of Liberty is Brookville, and yet they are in a different climate zone than we are.
Yes, the map that shows the zone change actually kind of dips below us, it looks like, and then goes up to the right side of Indy and then north. So we're actually...
This is based on about 60 years of records.
I think we here are in the northern Indiana colder zone.
No, we're in the 5B.
Okay.
Is that colder or warmer?
Well, in any case, it used to be a completely different, warmer zone.
Right. No, we used to be colder zone.
Right. Okay. I'm going the wrong way.
Right. We have warmed up, and the other ones have stayed the same. And then another zone, most of Indiana has warmed up.
Right.
But we've warmed up faster than they have. So, and speaking of that, would you read this right here? Because I'm having eye issues.
There is really a neat event going on, and this is a state of Indiana event.
It's actually a nationwide.
It's a nationwide thing, but this is our Indiana response to partake in this event. 3 days before the climate summit in New York City, people will strike. It's called a climate strike to demand transformative action to address the climate crisis. Millions will take to the streets and demand a right to a future, and they're inviting adults to strike with us. Now, our Indiana event is, let's see what it says, Indianapolis Climate Strike to be held from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Friday, September 20th. That's this Friday, 11 to 3, at the Indiana State House on Washington Street. And it's actually a strike to demand action for the climate crisis.
There's
the awareness is everything, really.
There's a lot of protests going on. There's a lot of protests for different things in different places. And this is one that that I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to do a lot more studying, and I'd have to know exactly what it is they're protesting
And I've
for
never
and
been
about.
one to get involved in political events and sides in this thing, but I guess if you don't act, and you have to pick something that's important, and if ever you were going to act on something that's pretty important, so.
Oh, I joined a couple of marches
Yeah,
back
I've
in the
never
day
been much of
out
a
in
joiner.
San Francisco, just because of what was walking in the march. You know.
Well, yeah, okay.
I think we need to join that. So let's go over there. So,
yeah, okay.
I had no idea what they were. I don't even know what
He's
the
just
sign
following
said.
girls. That's what he's
That's right.
doing.
That was-
I know all about
Exactly.
it. Now, on the following Saturday, September 28th, there is a farm in Indianapolis
Oh,
called
this is cool.
the Paramount School Farm.
This is really cool.
Yes, and they are having a
worth your time.
festival. It's an annual festival. It's free, family friendly, and it's on the grounds of this farm. And they're going to have goats, chickens, and bees, children's activities, workshops, hand-on demonstrations, exhibits, live music, and food. They'll be having sessions on urban farming, beekeeping, family gardening, food preservation, healthy cooking, yoga, and cycling. I mean,
There
this
you
is
go.
quite an event.
Yeah,
but
it's got
only
a little bit of
noon-
everything for everybody.
Noon to 5 p.m. at the Paramount School Farm in Indianapolis. Very cool.
And it is an active school.
And it's free.
It's a farm that is an active school. It's been around for a while.
I
don't
would
remember
love to pick
exactly.
up the grandkids in Indianapolis and
Yeah.
take them right over to that.
Sounds
It doesn't
like,
start till noon.
Sounds like
so.
something that they would enjoy doing, does
All
it not?
right. Yeah, I think so.
We've got some things that she's going to.
Well, I'll bring up the topic, and I know your eyes are bothering you. I can bring up the topic that's on the list, and you
Sure.
can tell us about. How's that?
We'll try that.
All right. Things to do in your garden this time of year in the fall.
Most of these, let me, before we get into, we copied a lot of this stuff directly off the internet. And we want to give the people that we got it from credit. And I do find that I disagree with about 10 or 15% of the
Definitely.
things that they say.
You do,
and,
yes.
And part of it is from experience, and part of it is from not being in the business for a while, and active in all of these different meetings that I used to
Reading
go to.
developments and everything else. So.
I may disagree, and I may be wrong. I may disagree, and I could be right. So,
And
but
every item, everything is specific to your location and conditions
that
and
is
environment.
when I disagree the most, is when they throw out blanket terms and they say this and that, and it does not apply. As you're going to see later on in the outtake, in my own yard, there are different environmental conditions, and we only have 3 acres. There's different environmental conditions within 100 feet of
Yes.
each other that are totally different than the one over here.
And affect the plants.
It affects
The
what I
trees.
plant, how I plant it, how it grows, the insects and diseases that it gets. All of these things are affected by the environmental conditions in this little microenvironment.
And that's one of the reasons we rotate the crops, because what might have been sunny enough for our tomatoes last year is no longer sunny enough for tomatoes
because
this
of growth
year.
of
Or, right.
different trees or stuff. But what I wanted to say is we want to try to, whenever we do take things right off the internet, give those people that we're copying, plagiarizing from
yes.
credit.
Credit.
And she just did.
And
She
a lot
mentioned
of it from Purdue.
we try
love
to
the
stick with
extension.
Purdue.
Yeah.
We like to get our information locally. We do often reach out just to see what other people are thinking and talking about.
And also, we are live tonight.
We
so,
is live,
Yes.
825. That's where we are live.
825-3245.
Oh, you have to
That's the
dial
number.
the other 4. It's just a
You
nuisance.
do, you
just
have to
dial
dial.
825 and wait.
No, don't do that. You won't get through.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
All right. Dial the 325-3245 and wait.
Because there are more than 2 opinions, the internet and your opinion. We want to hear from you and your
She
experiences.
thinks she has one.
No, I don't.
Oh.
I said there's 3. the internet,
Oh, okay.
you,
okay. Well,
and them.
there we go.
I have
That's
no
as long
opinion.
as we understand each other.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. So what can we do in the fall? Here it talks about digging onions and garlic, but only after the tops fall over naturally. Do you?
That's correct.
Do you have experience with garlic?
yeah, and that's definitely true. And you know what? With this drought and with the heat and everything, things are going to change. Things are going to be drooping over. Oh my gosh, I was driving from, where were we coming from? Where we went to the Festival.
Oh, the Ohio Renaissance Festival.
We went to the Ohio Renaissance Festival.
Yes,
and
that's always
I'm
fun.
driving down the road. I was driving.
I think so.
And you could see trees that had turned brown. They're not going into fall color. They're dead. Really?
Whoops.
There was many of them. And a lot of them were maples, and they still had all of their leaves, but they were brown, dead. Many of these trees looked like they had been planted maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, where they were just getting into a perfect size and starting to show some real ideal growth. But the problem is, if you don't water them and continue to water them,
Yes.
when you have a drought, they are going to die.
Yes.
And there was so many trees up and down the road on the way back. The ash borer's got thousands and millions of trees. Millions of them have just been taken out.
And that's clear across to New Hampshire. They have the same problem, right?
Oh yeah, when we went up we go up to 90 and then drive across, there are hundreds of miles of ash trees on both sides of the road, dead as a hammer. And they can't even process them fast enough for firewood and chips and so forth like that.
And they don't want you to transport it anywhere, really.
They're a little, yeah, that's true. But even using it right within that area, I mean, they just up
So
there.
much.
Yeah, there's so much of it that they just can't keep up with it.
Yes.
And then we've got sudden pine death and everything else. But these droughts will really wipe out a tree.
Now, I don't know if technically we're in a drought, but the thing is, when you plant a new tree, you have to water it more.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're in a drought or
It's gonna
even
be
if you're getting
established.
plenty of rain, because the rain doesn't necessarily soak into the ground slowly enough.
Unless it
could
rained for
come
24
4
hours.
inches and just wash
Yeah.
off and done. Okay.
Well, even here it
Sorry.
talks about this is the perfect time to plant or transplant or divide your peonies, your daylilies, your iris, and your phlox. But it says on the internet, and I'm sure you agree, but only if you can provide irrigation
You have
during
to provide
dry
irrigation.
spells. That's
Yeah.
right. Talk to us about bulbs. I have lost my train of thought there.
You don't plant them too early. Now is the time to buy them because you have the variety. When you first see them come out, buy whatever it is you're going to get. Put them in storage. Get them away from the sun. Cool storage would be fine. You can put them in the crisper if you want to. If you got too many and they won't fit in the crisper, that's fine. Just don't let them rot. So just hang them up where they're going to be dry and not get wet, damp. Or be in the sunshine where they'll bake. But when you want to plant them is after the first or second frost. Then go ahead and plant your daffodils, tulips, hyacinths, crocus, all of those plants.
You know, you don't want it to get hot and have them sprout now before,
No, you do not. And whatever it says, don't believe it.
Uh-oh.
If it says plant at 6 inches or 7 inches, go to 8 inches or 9 inches.
We have had better luck.
Always
yes.
add 2 inches to most of your bulb plantings.
We did that with our gladiolas, and we have the most beautiful long
We
stem
have hardy
Oh, they're
gladiolus
beautiful.
that come back year after
Every
year
year.
that are not supposed to.
And they're fancy.
They're beautiful, gorgeous things, and they get bigger and more
Do you know I was at the
voluptuous.
farm stand when we went up to New Hampshire, and they had those long sprays of beautiful gladiolas like we grow in our garden, and they were selling them for $1 a piece.
$1 a stem?
$1 a stem.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, they do dig theirs up there. I know the greenhouses she's talking about, and every year they dig up their bulbs, and they've got glad bulbs that are like this.
Oh, my.
They're just incredible. And of course, they produce and produce and produce and produce and produce. And then they let some of them rest and let them rejuvenate themselves and so forth. But we were talking about the transplanting and so forth, but go ahead.
Also, what can we plant in a garden right now for fall? A lot of times people by now, they're kind of sick of messing with their garden and, you just want to clean it up and get it over with. But you can still plant some things.
You can plant some things. You have
for
to
fall
find them for
harvest.
plants. You have to find them in plant form if you're going to go with most of them. And you don't want them to be root bound, and you don't want the stems to be hard. So if you can find good young plants, and there are a few nurseries that carry them, and unfortunately not enough people participate, so there's not a demand, so there's very few nurseries that will grow them. But if you can find them and put them in the ground, and even if we get a frost, cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, all that, they don't care. I know, you can get 10 frosts.
No,
if you get a hard freeze, you may have to put something over them.
You could have started them from seed if you had gotten a much earlier
You
start
got to back
than
up,
now.
though, way
But
back up. Yeah.
Right now, there are some seed
Oh,
crops
yeah,
that you can
could
still
throw
plant.
lettuce out there,
Yep.
spinach, and
You've got radishes.
quick radishes. Yep.
Green onion sets, lettuce, spinach.
All that stuff will still grow. You still have time to grow it. And there's another thing that you can plant right now that will be beneficial to your garden, and that's a cover crop. We've quit doing cover crops for some reason, but a cover crop is a green crop that in the spring you're going to plow down to rejuvenate your
I
garden.
actually read something about that. Planting it on your if you have a compost pile that's right on the ground, to plant something on top into the top of the compost pile, so that in the spring when you turn it over, that gets turned in.
Right.
Now, what kind of ground crop do you mean?
There's any number of green cover crops. Something that grows quick. The clovers are fine. There's grasses. There's different types of grasses you can plant for cover crops. There's even soybeans that you can plant. Even if they'll only grow this tall, then they die. That's fine.
That just
it's
wants
a cover crop.
the plant material
Yeah.
to turn into your compost pile.
And part of what you want to try to do is replace what's missing in your soil. So plant things that will bring those nutrients up to the surface.
Okay, good. There was something I was going to ask you, and that escaped me as well. Sorry
Before we
about
get
that.
too far into the show here, I want to I'm having a heck of a time finding a DC electrical engineer, DC electrician, somebody that can wire the bandsaw that I have back to where it's functional. It's like a Wood-Mizer bandsaw that cuts logs into lumber, and some kids decided they needed the copper more than I did a number of years ago, and I just need a DC mechanic, a DC electrical electrician. I mean, if you know somebody, tell them to call me.
Yeah, it has solenoids that raise and lower the blade.
If you know what it is, if you know what a DC electrician is, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, then.
So, and then we also need someone with experience to level our trailer and anchor
We
it
do.
down.
I've got a plumber coming
We've got
tomorrow.
a problem.
We're still
Yeah.
working on that mess
We
from
had
last February.
We've got a disaster out there. So I figured there's 28,000 people that watch your show.
Right.
What, did it go down to 16,000?
I don't know.
I think it dropped to 16,000 last week. You people better get on the stick.
We're taking out our own ad here. We need help
to be
with
up.
these things.
We need to be up higher. Okay. Now there's a ton of things that you need to do this time of the year, and those were listed where? Where did you have those
Well,
listed?
here's some things here.
Okay, go ahead.
Cleaning up your garden, taking away all the dead plants.
Don't leave this stuff out there.
No, get rid of it, and if any of it had disease and you put it in your compost pile, that disease is going to still be there next year.
Well, but there's a disagreement with that.
Okay.
If you put diseased material and insects and everything in your compost pile and you get hot enough, they're all gone.
Okay.
That's how we get rid of diseases, is by composting. And if you put nitrate of soda on there, cover it with a clear plastic, get it hot, it'll bake the diseases right off. The main reason that people don't take the beneficial mulch that's south of town to their house is because they're worried about insects and disease.
And weed seeds. And
weeds,
right.
yeah, and most of it is chewed up trees. And it's true that some of those trees, if not many of those trees, may have had some issues. But if you don't put it on your garden immediately, bring it to your house, put nitrate of soda on it, cover it up with clear plastic, cook it through the winter. Next spring, it's good to go.
Okay.
So I can disagree sometimes with her. I get hit later, but I can disagree.
Not true.
When you people are watching, I'm cool. It's good.
Not true.
Hey, I want to mention something about hunting season while you organize yourself there.
You organize yourself.
We have hunting season coming up here super, super quick. And, I just moved that paper. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay. Reduction zones. If you're in the hunting, into hunting, you know about reduction zones. That's where we have a surplus of deer. We really need help from the hunters. If we don't help and we don't reduce the population of these deer, they will start shooting them with snipers. and it's already started, and they think it's a good idea, and you better get on the stick and volunteer to hunt in these areas, because if we can take them legally and process the meat properly through hunting, then it's less chance of them bringing in snipers, or even the ultimate would be to poison them. So you're going to have to get on the stick. Okay, reduction zones is September the 15th, 2019 through January
That's
the
now.
31st. Holy mackerel.
I guess it depends what zone.
Well, no, reduction zones.
Okay.
That's how long the season is, because they
With
are.
what weapon?
Well, I think it's mostly with bow. But,
Okay.
you have to look these things up. Youth season. Now, the youth in the past has been to give them an opportunity before the actual hunting season
Yes.
opens up, and so forth like that. So, and you
Not
got to
so much
read all your rules
commotion.
and regulations,
Yeah.
which I'm going to try to bring myself up to date a little bit more for the next show. We're going to focus on hunting and hunting seasons. September the 28th and 29th.
That's
2019.
coming. That's
Yes,
a week
coming
from
right up.
Saturday, yes.
Archery, the archery season begins October the 1st, and it goes all the way through until January the 5th.
Wow.
And the archery take, or the number of deer you're allowed, is very liberal. I think they should make it where you have to shoot, you have to legally tag and process 3 does before you can get your tag for a buck.
Wow.
Because then we might have some deer reduction out of the
Now,
the
you
doe
said
season.
something about, hunting in this heat. Some of these seasons in the reduction zones have already started. And it is 90.
No, September the 15th is
Yes,
the first one.
it's now the 18th.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you know what?
It's
if you
hot.
shoot a deer in this season, blowflies are a major problem. You take the deer early in the morning and don't shoot anything after 10 o'clock. Put it on the ground, get it out, and get it into a locked vehicle and get it to a cooler immediately. And you need to know in advance where the coolers are. Mustin has one. Look around and find out where these deer coolers are, because if you can't get into the cooler, the blowflies will find it before you can drag it out of the woods.
I know, and you've talked about even not reduction zone seasons, but regular season, because it does tend to warm up sometimes. You
Yeah,
get
it
that
does.
Indian summer later in October, and you've said, no, it's just too hot to hunt today.
Yeah,
I'm just,
and I will pass on certain days that it is too hot, and that's why I wish they would have the seasons go a little bit later, although the bucks do tend to drop their horns a little earlier around here because they have so many does to service that they get worn out and they just say, okay, I'm going to get rid of these things.
does to service.
Yeah, well,
I like that.
Well, firearms, November the 16th through December the 1st. Muzzleloader is December the 7th through the 22nd, which is so fantastic because...
That's only a 2-week season,
Well,
though.
yes,
yeah.
but that moves the muzzleloader season for here later, and the
Okay.
muzzleloader season in New Hampshire is earlier. So my hunting companion and
option
I,
of doing
we
both.
were able to go up there and hunt and come down, because that's all I hunt with is a muzzleloader. I don't use a shotgun except for ducks and geese. Muzzleloader would be a little bit, no, can't do it. Special antlerless deer season, December the 26th through January the 5th. Again, they're trying to promote taking more does
Right.
and decreasing the number. Now, I am not kidding about this reduction zone business.
And when you say that, you're talking about where, like, urban areas where deer have become a nuisance.
Yes.
Okay.
And Richmond was one of them. Brown County, Indiana, I fought on the board for many days, many months, in order to try to get a hunting season in the state parks, along with many
believe
other
we have a caller.
many other hunters. We have a caller?
You have a caller.
Well, you're on the air with Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor. Can we help you, please?
Yes, Garden Doctor.
Yes.
I would like to make part of my yard just like a natural habitat with like wildflowers.
Okay.
And I've been collecting some wildflower seeds like the coneflowers and the bee balm and black-eyed Susans and stuff from the meadow near my house. And I was wondering what I need to do to prepare my area, like a 10 by 10 piece of land that I could then plant that stuff so it'd be ready for next year. And when do I plant the seeds?
Well, you plant the seeds when nature would plant them naturally, which is just prior to a snow or when you see them going to seed in your area anyway. But the soil is the most important thing. If it has been treated with a weed control of any kind, a weed preventer or a weed killer, it will decrease, especially wildflowers are very susceptible to that. So you should not treat that area with anything for a period of time. Then you want to actually, and I don't very often recommend this, you want to scalp the lawn. That area you want to just mow it very short, almost down to the dirt. Then put your seeds out, and if you can, just a small layer of humus, compost type material on the top, because wildflowers grow in wild areas, and wild areas tend to contain more humus and more nutrients than what we have in our lawns because we deplete it so poorly, so badly. So if you put out a little bit of humus, it doesn't matter what it is, cow manure or whatever,
just
and then throw the seeds.
Topsoil or something.
Then you're going to expect to have weeds grow, grass grow, and your flowers grow. And the trick is to allow things to go naturally, but the aggressive ones that are chokers, you cannot allow them to stay in there, like the Johnson grass, the goose grass, barnyard grass. Those type of things would have to be removed from that area until your wildflowers get established. I would also recommend take your natural ones, take your native ones, but you might want to get there's a small packet called Bee Lovers Wildflowers for Indiana. It's a very good combination. I can't begin to tell you what's in there, but it's made for an area 10 by 10. That's the size that they per package. So it's exceptional, and you scattered some up and down the
trail there where I walk. Now, do you need to remove the sod in that area? No,
that's the ideal. Bare ground would be better, but you're dealing with an area that's going to be reseeded almost immediately with the stuff that you don't want in there. So if you just scalp off the grass, it won't solve all the problem, but you're going to have a mixture of grasses and a little bit of everything, and a lot of wildflowers coming up.
Cool.
Yeah, and even though they're wildflowers, they still require a little bit of fertilizer to get the full reward that you're looking for.
Can we buy fertilizer? I have no idea how to get any of that.
Fertilizer can be applied as a natural. You can put on a cow manure or anything like that. Any one of the manures you can put on there. Compost is fine. I'm not talking about you have to go out and buy a commercial or a chemical fertilizer. Just something that'll raise the nutrients in that area.
Okay, well, thank you. I will try that this fall then.
All right, and then let us know how many blooms you get, and also count how many bees you get. Seriously, I was out mowing the other day, and I have goldenrod now everywhere.
Right.
Yarrow, just beautiful goldenrod. I just love them. And so when I'm mowing these big, tall goldenrods, I would bump into them enough for the bees to rise up in the air so that they wouldn't get mowed. And then I would go forward a little bit, and of course they would land on me because had a yellow shirt on. And then I would go forward a little bit more. And they really do that, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to land on me. And so then when I would get a shirt full, I would back up and I would pull over to the side and let them fly off. They're just a little disoriented because something just hit what they were getting honey on, what they were collecting their pollen on. So, but the fascinating thing to me was that the greater the number of bees, the calmer they are. They always seem to get, when you've got one or two on you, they're very nervous. But when you get 10 or 15 or at one time down here going down the main road,
yes.
I had over 400 on me.
But don't swat at anything.
I had a swarm on me with the queen in my pocket. And I was driving a tractor from the rental place down here. What is it?
Oh, Gilman's, yes.
Gilman's to the job at Yarian Optometry, and a little termite, and you can only do 2 miles an hour, and a swarm just happened to land on me with the queen. She crawled into my pocket, and the rest of them just swarmed around me. And people who aren't very bright many times blew their horns, screamed and yelled, and called 911. And of course, now sirens are coming. Oh, this is fun. Yeah, this is good. But fortunately, I got into the Arians parking lot, and there was a bush there that I could get over close to and allow them to reswarm. So I took them out of my pocket, put them there. And then my friend Stoney Jackson come down. He's a beekeeper. And he collected the swarm and took it with him. And
I forget, did you get stung?
I got stung one time, and it was my own fault. I grabbed what I thought was the queen, and it wasn't. And I pulled her out, or pulled out what I thought was the queen, and it wasn't the queen. And when I went back in, I had to kind of work around some, and I got stung one time. And but that was it. And it was because there's so many of them, and you're not a threat. They're over. They feel very comfortable if there's a.
And you didn't show any fear, so.
I love bees. I don't know why I'm not a beekeeper, but I rarely get stung by bees, and I oftentimes will pick them up and move them. But honeybees, you don't mess around with every bee out there. Now the bumbles, I've never had one aggressive. I used to have bumbles in all of my greenhouses, and we would release them at night, and they would stay until the customers started to come, and then I'd go around and collect up all my bumbles and put them back in their house and put them up, and then at the end of the day I'd release them again. And I never got stung one time from the bumbles.
Well.
And that's the truth. Well, you got a lot of information you didn't bank on, but we thank you for your call very much. Very much appreciate it. Have a good day.
Yep, you too. Bye.
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 Anyways,
Cool.
so let's see. There was a whole bunch of stuff that we were going to cover. Oh, also, I know that when is that talent show thing coming out?
Oh, it's the Imagine This thing. It's a variety show that they have here at the TV3 studio. And that is Thursday, January 26th, which is a week from tomorrow. And it's right here at the studio at 6 o'clock. And they've already got 3 musical acts that are
And it's open
signed
seating,
up for
right?
that. Yes,
I mean,
it's
you
open.
just-
Come
yeah.
on in. You come to, does everyone know where this bank building is, where the studio even is? You come in the
Lordy.
back door. It used to be the issues and answers workers there, and you go up the elevator to the 2nd floor, and that's right here at the TV studio. But that's always fun.
Yeah.
They have some great musical acts, and I don't know what else.
And
yet.
what I think is the most fun is that you get to see this fabulous TV3 studio. I mean, it is incredible.
And
it
you
really
see all these
is.
flowers
What they have built
and
here
our little
is
planting
is
shed
amazing.
we have there in the
Yeah,
background. and
the
all
posies
that's right
there.
here. Yeah, right behind
Yeah,
us.
the dirt. As you come in, you wipe your feet off in the dirt.
Now, we talked about earlier about politics and not really, jumping into, we haven't joined into a lot of those
my.
things, but they are having at the Miller Center building, meet the candidates kind of forum where you can get together with them and meet them. And that is this Thursday, which is tomorrow night, up at the Miller Center. And let's see, 6 o'clock is when it begins. And it's also hosted by the TV3 studio and the Chamber of Commerce. But if you want to meet the candidates, the people who are running for elections and these local elections, that's where you want to go, meet them, bounce around ideas, and see who you like. So, and you have another call, so you
We have another call.
Straight to that.
This one is probably for you.
Oh, you think it's for me? Okay, let's
Hello,
see.
can we help you? This is the Garden Doctor and Mrs. Garden Doctor.
Hello, Garden Doctor. I'd like you to know that your zucchini and cucumber yielded 1 each.
1 each, okay.
1 each.
That is my father in New Hampshire. While we were on vacation, we took
What
with
each,
us.
Dad? What did you do?
We took with us a zucchini plant and 2 cucumber plants, and they were kind of slow getting going and everything, but the zucchini really took off as we left, and my father has been kind of checking. Now, did you only get the 1 big zucchini, Dad? Nothing after that?
I did, and it's made like 6 meals so far.
I got a giant one.
No kidding. Hey, what's the weather up there?
Well, they may not survive tonight. We're under frost watch.
You're
Really?
under a frost already, huh?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's,
that's the watch for tonight. I don't know if we'll get it or not.
we are 90 degrees here, Dad.
Yes, it's terrible. and there's been no rain for a week, and I think
Oh,
we're
2 weeks,
expecting
yeah.
some finally Sunday. I don't know, but yeah, it's really heating up here, and you're getting look out for a frost.
Look out for us.
You know, I think it was 58 today.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh,
Nice.
my goodness.
I would still be down at the lake, though. You know that.
This
I'm
is
still
the
gonna get
time
my
to
feet
be
wet.
in New Hampshire, no doubt.
I'd love to throw you guys in.
Yeah. Have the trees started to turn colors yet?
A little bit. Mostly the red maples are showing bright red in spots.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But other than that,
that's a really big event actually in the Northeast.
Yeah,
in
they
New
don't mess
England.
around up there. When it's leaf peeper season,
You have leaf peeper
the
season.
natives stay off the
Yeah,
road.
you
don't
can't get a flight. You
you
can't
don't
get
walk,
a motel
you don't
room.
ride, you don't do nothing.
But you never know exactly when it's going to be, and you don't know exactly how long
when
it's
the
going to last.
crazies are on the road, bumper to bumper, it's time to stay. It's the season right then.
It is.
Oh
it
my
is.
God.
Well, I'm glad I left that zucchini for you. Now you took one, cut it up, took the skin off, and made it like mashed potatoes. You told me.
I'm not saying it was big, but it should last most of the winter if I only eat it 5 days a week.
Ah, nice.
And that's the truth. My gosh, those things get monstrous.
Yeah, cook it up like mashed potatoes. He said it was really good. So.
Good day.
Mashed potatoes and onion. Mix onion with it and mash it up and add a good chunk of butter.
Oh yeah.
And it's delicious.
Well, I'm
Wonderful.
glad to hear that.
I've never tried
We
it
have
like
never
that,
tried
so-
large zucchini, and I've never cooked it like that.
Well, I know Georgette always used to shred it and then use it for zucchini bread,
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing, because there's so much meat involved.
Yeah.
If you add a little maple syrup to it, it's good
I was
also.
going to suggest that. That's the way to do it right there. Love you, Dad.
Well,
Glad
thank
to hear
you
your
for
voice.
calling, Dad. Good to hear you.
Okay.
We'll talk to you soon, Pop.
Okay, I love you guys.
Love you too.
Hey,
Bye.
we're live streaming, Dad. Try to pick us up.
Yeah, I'll go to the live streaming.
There you go.
All right.
Love you.
Bye, Pop.
All right, bye, Dad. We have an outtake back there that we're going to go
Yes,
to
you
here
better
whenever
get to
they're
that.
ready to roll
After that, I'll get into some
And
of these
then
events we
we've
got going on.
Well, I want to definitely get into this noxious weed
Yes,
list that we got
that's
going on here.
incredible
Yeah,
information there.
that's a real pain there. I can't believe some of those.
Okay, well,
But whenever you're ready back in there, just have at it. And hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garden Doctor Show, the Garden Doctor Outtake, and the Garden Doctor, Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor's backyard. On my right is a special guest, all the way up from the deep south, and this is a banana tree that is supposed to grow in the state of Indiana and be hardy. Be hardy. It's a hardy banana tree. Now, we're going to find out. Of course, we only have one, so this is not really an experiment. This is just a test, and then we're going to put out 6 or 10, and if this one does survive, and maybe even if it doesn't, we'll add some more. My wife is going to pan across. She's the one behind the camera, by the way. She's going to pan across these apple trees and down across these raspberries and then across the other raspberries. And you'll note, as she's going across these apple trees that were all planted about the same time, exactly in the same way, they all got the same amount of care, the same amount of fertilizer, the same amount of water. But there is positively definite differences in their growth and in their appearance. You'll also note that these raspberries, as she goes across, these raspberries on her left, the left side, and the ones on the right are vastly different. The ones on the left here produced quite well. They had robust growth. They were vigorous in their rhizome development. And the ones on the right were kind of spindly and not looking as strong. Now, the reason for the raspberries is simply sunlight. Sunlight is required for raspberries to grow perfectly and properly. These raspberries over here received adequate The ones on her left, the ones on the right, did not receive adequate sunlight. So we will be digging those up and relocating those over to the end of this raspberry patch, and they will join the group of robust. The two smaller apple trees, this one included, that you see in this row here, is no other reason than variety. Variety can make a big difference in your apple trees, in their growth or in their size, also in their resistance. And the same thing with tomato plants. Variety is a big, important thing. Now we're going to talk about grass for a minute or two, then we're going to go over to, here's the herb garden. I forgot the herb garden. It's right here in front of me. Right here is a very, very old Swiss chard. I don't know if she can zoom in, but these are old roots down here, big tubers, three times the size of your thumb. And they have produced and produced and produced, and we've cut off. And then this summer we were gone. They were left to their own accord, and of course to the our local residents here of ground dogs that like to feed on everything that we plant. But we thought that perhaps if she cut them off, weeded them out, fertilize them, they would come back, and they have come back, and they are doing fairly well. I can see some leaves that have been nipped off that we got to take care of these groundhogs. But most of her herb garden here that's growing in tires to contain them, to keep them from outgrowing their environment, are doing fairly well. Now down here on the ground is grass. This grass was not mowed during the summer, but every 2 weeks. And during the course of the summer, when it got so hot here in Indiana, and also we had some bad water. You guys had a lot of flooding going on when we were gone. So the grass, I had scheduled it only to be mowed every 2 weeks. It's healthy. It's got good root structure development, good rhizomes. It's starting to, this is what's called tall fescue, which is a beautiful grass, much hardier and stronger than bluegrass. There's clovers that are down inside of here. This lawn has done beautifully. The lawn next door that was mowed frequently and short is browned all up and is in danger of having to be completely rejuvenated because so many patches of it were burned up simply from mowing too much and too short. So if you can, please mow higher and higher and higher still, and fertilize very infrequently. Be very careful of your phosphoruses because that's what's going into our lakes and causing all of the darn problems. Keep the phosphorus levels down. The nitrogen doesn't have to be ridiculous either. In the fall, it's a good idea to put on some nitrogen. We'll talk about that in the show a little later on. Now we're going to move back here, and I'm going to show you some more of the failures of the garden doctor. We'll be back in just a minute. Hello, part two, where we've moved over from one side of our backyard to another, where we're starting some new peach trees, apricot, cherry, and so forth. Now, you might ask why these big ribbons are on here, and if you'd look around my yard, you'd see that there are ribbons on all kinds of different things. The ribbons indicate things that are new, and by indicating them this way, we don't miss them when we're doing our hand watering. You'll also notice that around all of my fruit trees, there is this hose that is a drainage tile hose that's simply been cut in half and then fitted around the plant. And I even have them on my large fruit trees. They've just grown there for a number of years. The purpose for that is to keep the buck deer from coming in the fall and rubbing their antlers on the base of my tree. It only takes them doing that once or twice and the tree is gone. Now, I have protected these plants. I have watered them. I was very diligent in how they're planted. But what I noticed in the planting is as I dug holes all the way around this property to put different trees in, that the soil was totally different. There would be total clay out front. I was hammering into clay at about 18 inches deep. we had to dig the clay out, which was quite arduous, and get that clay out, put in some sand, mix it into the bottom, put in peat moss, mix it into the soil, and then plant the plant and try to put good soil back around it. Then we ran into places over here that were completely sand and gravel. That's all we could find down there. So we had to dig the hole much larger, bring in soil that I had over here in a mound to try to get the plant to grow in this sandy soil environment. And the reason for that is this used to be a riverbed. And in some places there's clay, in some places there's gravel and sand, but in most places there's good loam. You'll notice there's a dead tree behind a live tree here. Well, that's because this tree failed. The first attempt did not work. Why did it not work? Well, I tend to buy plants that are at the end of the season. I am very careful at watching that I get good root stock and that I get good strong plants, that they're not all defoliated and look dead. So it probably wasn't the plant. It probably wasn't the watering either, but it could have been a number of things. It is possible that, you can see I have a bean field beside me. It is possible that its most delicate time, it did get some drift of Roundup, and that will defoliate it and knock it down pretty quick. It's also possible that we might have missed a watering at a very crucial early time. And if you do that, you only do it once. Now, I don't do all the watering. Sometimes I hire somebody to do it. So if they miss this plant twice, it's dead. Now, you'll notice over here that this plant is died back and it was assumed to be dead. However, you can see the green coming up from the bottom, and it is coming above the graft, which is very important. All of these plants are grafted. They have a place where the two trees were put together. And if this cherry comes up below the graft, then it's a wild cherry tree and it will never be any good. So don't try to save something that is only the rootstock because you're looking for the fruit. But now I have a cherry tree planted next to a brand new peach tree. But I believe the reason that this came back is because even though it was looking dead, I still continued to water it myself all during the spring and the summer of this year before we took our vacation. So don't give up on your plants right away. Go ahead and keep watering them, but it's very important that you are extremely diligent, digging the hole, knowing what is down in there, making your soil amendments at the time that you have dug the hole, because each one can be different, and then water. Now, when I water this plant, I water it until all the ground around it is wet and until the pocket that is inside is full of water. We've left a recession in there. I was supposed to show you that up there and I forgot. We fill that completely full of water, then we go to that one, then to that one. We water 3 plants at a time. Then you come back and you water this one again. And you're looking at about 5 to 7 gallons of water per tree, very slowly poured onto it so it doesn't just run off, and so that it waters the entire area. That's the difference between losing and keeping young plants. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to send it back to the studio. Are we back on?
We are.
Oh
we got the countdown and everything.
Lord, I had no idea whatsoever. Usually they count us down back in there. They go like,
he did.
Oh, he did?
Yes, that was what the counting was for.
Oh, I thought there was something else going on there. Okay. I want you to read off this list of noxious weeds and noxious plants. Not all of there's one of them there that I need to know all the seeds. But this is incredible. This is a list of plants. What are they for now?
Okay, these are prohibited invasive
What does it say?
plants.
Wasn't there an intro there that...
And it says, a person must not do the following with respect to any species identified below. You may not sell, offer for sale, gift, barter, exchange, or distribute a species, or transport or introduce a species by any means. Okay.
Wow.
These are
Now,
prohibited.
I want to know what the penalty is, because I may be going to jail.
Uh-oh, you hush now. And some of them are just they're what it is. It's they're invasive species. They're trying to stop them from,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a big
taking
thing.
over and get the native species back to being native.
I agree
Because so many things
entirely.
have been moved. Now, I mean, think about it. The tree of heaven.
Yeah,
which,
now the tree of heaven, we should all go out and identify what it is
And kill it.
and it's not easy to
It's
kill.
actually the tree from H-E-L-L.
Yeah,
you know.
the only reason they call it the tree from heaven is that it grows so fast that it outgrows every other tree around it
Except
and
bamboo.
kills
That's
them
awful.
all.
You know, I don't see bamboo on this list.
What?
Think about it. I have
Oh
not
my
seen-
gosh, bamboo is one of the most ugly,
Invasive.
invasive things in New Hampshire. It's terrible.
Now, Japanese barberry surprised me.
Oh, yeah. Well, all of this stuff.
Garlic mustard, black alder.
Black alder? I know that I had black alder on a list of plants that I could plant when I had the nursery. Go ahead.
Asian bittersweet, poison hemlock. Now, I'm not sure if that's the same as
You
just
know,
hemlock.
I'm really not sure what poison hemlock looks like, but I know that if you boil down any hemlock, it has toxins in it.
Who was
So,
it that killed themselves eating
Socrates.
Yeah, okay. Crown vetch. Okay, that is
Okay,
a
here's the
prohibited.
problem. I was paid
invasive.
to put crown vetch after inoculating it and putting it in the dust all along the causeways.
It's your fault. It's taken over the world.
Apparently 'tis.
You're
and
not
I was
allowed to
paid
do
by
it.
the state.
Yeah, well, you're not. Well, and it says unless you were, paid to have an exemption from the state for one reason or another.
I don't know
but
if I had an exemption,
no,
but I
it's
put
just,
it out.
It's something that we used to plant, and it seemed like a good idea.
And I have
and-
recommended it up until just, I probably would
Last
recommend
week?
it now, yeah. Because crown vetch is a fabulous erosion control. Matter of fact, the trailer park was asking me for erosion control. What would I
Wow.
use? And two of the things I would suggest are on this list.
Well, euonymus, winter creeper.
Euonymus vegetus, window creeper, I would have recommended it. And it also is a very good deer fodder in the winter. I'm not sure why it's invasive though, because it does creep out and choke. So
Maybe
I guess,
it's just a non-native. I don't know.
I
but-
don't know. I gotta find out how they put these criteria.
And these papers are from the state of Indiana. This
Yeah.
is from the Division of Entomology and Plant Pathology from the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. So,
Okay.
autumn olive, leafy spurge.
Now wait a minute. Autumn olive, I am sure the state was planting.
Well, that was then.
Okay.
It must have become invasive, and they didn't know it at the time. But now it is prohibited.
In some of the parks and so forth for wildlife, refuge.
What is glossy buckthorn?
I have no idea, but
Leafy
it's glossy.
spurge. Japanese honeysuckle.
Well, there are so many kinds of honeysuckle.
Yes, and there's several listed here.
To identify, yeah, I saw that. There's a whole bunch of them actually.
There's like 5, 6
now,
different
I think
honeysuckles.
Bell's honeysuckle I sold, and I think Armour honeysuckle I sold when I had the nursery. Not really positive, but I believe I did.
There's a white mulberry, Armour cork tree,
Armour cork tree, I know I sold that. I am positive that I had a
Oh,
cork
my.
tree. Yes.
Japanese knotweed, giant knotweed, common buckthorn. It just goes on.
Yeah, well,
And then you've got water plants as well.
here's the deal, though. If you're not aware, if you don't know that these are invasive species, why wouldn't you? Oh, there's a nice plant in my neighbor's yard or my
Right.
friend's yard or whatever. Why wouldn't you pick up a cutting of it and bring it to your yard and move it from here to here to here to here? Because a lot of these things I didn't know, so I can't expect you to know, and the Department of Natural Resources can't expect you to know. They need to start doing a better job of getting the word out and letting people know what's going on. Also,
Yep.
they need to get the word
You
out.
can't sell them, you can't give them away.
No.
That's
You-
restricted.
You're not supposed to even have them yourself, right?
Right. Well, I'm not sure about that. No. Well, I don't know. Can't give them away.
There
Can't
are
sell
certain
them.
plants that you're not supposed. Now, I don't know what the rules are now, but Johnson weed, Johnson grass,
Yeah, that's
and
listed
Canadian
here.
thistle.
Under prohibited noxious weeds, and the sale of seeds of these plants is prohibited.
Okay.
So-
now, when it says prohibited noxious weeds, what does that mean? that means that you're not allowed to have them in your yard, right? They're prohibited.
Yes.
Okay, so that
And
includes...
there's a list there: quackgrass, Canada thistle, shattercane, Johnson grass.
Johnson grass, yeah. These are the ones that you can actually be fined if you have a certain percentage in your yard of these species. So, yes, that definitely can happen. So you need to know the laws. You
I
really
know.
do, and you need to know these species because nobody wants to have plants that they shouldn't have
Well,
or
I found it really
that cause a
interesting.
problem or that.
Because we've talked about, digging up some of our daylilies and bringing them to New Hampshire and planting there. And I got to thinking, I know some, like wood, ash borer, you're not supposed to move. What is illegal to transport to
Well, there's
New
a lot of
Hampshire,
plants
so-
you can't take across the state line.
Right.
And you have to have
And that's
a
when I ran
plantsman's
across
license
this.
and so forth.
And
And,
the
that's why we
prohibited-
haven't done it.
I couldn't believe some of the prohibited ones are ones I've heard you talk about in landscape plans.
You've heard me talk about them on the garden
Yes,
show.
I have. Let's
Yeah.
do some of these current events. Get that squared away. We've got a
Go
lot of
ahead.
stuff
You better
going
get
on.
after that.
Well, you've got the 4th annual Apple Dumpling Days coming. That's a great festival. That's October, let's see, 11th and 12th. It's still a few weeks
Dumpling?
away. Yeah, the Apple Dumpling Festival.
Oh, I thought you meant
And that's
dumpling,
here in
dumpling.
Connersville. So, yeah, I'm looking at local stuff. Still a couple of weeks away, but that's all right. Now, a week from Saturday, you've got a car show, the 525 Anything with Wheels at Roberts Park. That's going to
I
be a
got
lot
things
of
with
fun.
wheels.
Oh, yes, you do. 1 p.m. on Saturday, a week from Saturday, or a week from Sunday, I'm sorry. And that ought to be a lot of fun. Now, this Saturday is an event that's near and dear to your heart, always. We always try to go to this, and that is the Everton Volunteer Fire Department's breakfast.
Yes.
That is this Saturday, 7-Eleven. 7 in the morning to 11 in the morning, breakfast. They put on an awesome breakfast.
They really do.
They were the first fire station to respond when his house burnt during the ice storm in 1999 in January.
And it was impossible to even get down my driveway,
Yep,
but they
and
made it happen.
they were
And
the
then they
first
had no
ones.
water. They had to chop a hole through the ice, and then they had to chop another hole through the ice because that one froze over before they could even get the hose into it. Of course, I was on my way to Indianapolis, which took about almost 7 hours.
But we try to support that one, just like we went to the Columbia thing and got chicken, Now, the House of Ruth, you know that one.
Yes, I do. The House of Ruth. We
yes,
support that.
for
we love
women
it.
who are trying to change their lives from drug addiction. And on the 28th, I think that's Saturday, right? They're having at the Miller Building in Roberts Park. 6 p.m. They're having a dinner, a buffet, a program, all kinds of things. All are welcome to, deal with recovery from addiction. And
Excellent.
Okay, now a lot of people are into this wrestling business. Live pro wrestling. Saturday, September 28th at Roberts Park. Let's see, WFW Arena.
Will there be mud involved?
I don't know. Doors
Any
open at
nakedness?
6:30. It's $10.
Naked mud wrestling.
Now this is something
No?
we are going to do.
That's not it.
No.
Aw.
We are going to go learn and play pickleball.
Naked?
No.
Oh.
Nobody's naked
Oh,
here.
no nakedness. Okay.
Thursday, October 3rd. It's only $3.
You heard it first here.
Yep.
Naked
1
pickleball.
to 3. We are going to go learn to play pickleball. Maybe get on a
Pickleball.
team or something.
Yeah, okay. That sounds... Okay, never mind.
No, okay. And another couple of weeks away, they do this Abraham Lincoln thing on the Whitewater Valley train. A guy dresses up like Abe Lincoln and tells you historical
When's our next
things.
show?
And
We're running out of
I
time.
don't know. When is our next show, John? Let's ask the studio here.
I don't know.
I
But
don't
on
know.
our next show, we're going to talk about hunting regulations, the hunting season,
Yes. It's getting-
fishing.
Yeah.
October the 3rd. Oh, right in the prime time
That's
of the
pickleball
season.
day.
Pickleball day. We're going to be talking about all of these different hunting regulations. We may even
Have a guest?
We may have a guest. I don't know. But if we do, we'll let you know after the fact.
Okay, and we could interview them and bring in an outtake
Yeah,
from
we
the
might
guest.
do that. We might do that. All right, and thank you very much for watching. we have really had had a good time when we came back. Our trailer was in a little bit of disrepair, and we're just now getting the plumbing back from all the way back into
Well, that's
March.
why I'm
when we
hoping
got
winter
here.
will hold off. I don't mind gardening a
Oh
little longer.
Lordy! But we're slowly getting that done, and we got to get it jacked up, and we got to get it leveled, and then we got to put the skirting back. The
I
skirting
know.
was
Well,
all
God's
destroyed.
going to help us figure it out.
And so we're heading in that direction, but it's not an easy process.
Yes, and prayers for baby Ellie, my friend's grandbaby, who has been suffering with a lot of issues since she was born in May, and she's all over Facebook, and our hearts go out to you guys, and we're hanging in there for you.
And pray for all of our soldiers too.
Please do, yes. They really give of themselves and need our prayers.
Thank you very much for watching.
The garden